Before we start, we have to take care of some business, and that is to wish you a happy birthday. So happy
Oh,
birthday.
thank you. Thank
I've
you.
seen the pictures of the peanut butter and jelly cake your wife made you, and though she'll never listen to this podcast, hats off to your wife for that peanut butter cake. It looks great.
It's my favorite, but also our children forced us to watch the Descendants movies, and there's this one scene in the second Descendant movie, which is the only reason why I watch it, because the one girl's like trying to impress him, so she makes this like crazy birthday dinner for him, but it's all magic.
Uh-huh.
And she they get into an argument, and like she runs off and the magic disappears, and all all that like food that's sitting there just turns into like a glass of milk and peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and he like grabs it and turns and says, peanut butter jelly's my favorite. And like the whole movie, like I didn't pay attention to anything except that scene came on, and I cracked up for like a half an hour
You felt
because
seen
it was
for
so
the first
funny.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, that's me. Peanut butter
pretty
jelly's
good.
my favorite. He just said
That's
it in
pretty
the
good.
funniest way. But
And
yeah,
so
peanut butter
a cake
jelly
was born. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, congratulations on turning another year older.
Oh, thank you. Welcome to This Endorian Life, a Star Wars podcast from the Radio Meanwhile Network. My name is Steve Rudd.
I'm Nick Gunning, and we're following the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi to the Ewok TV movies, the 80s cartoon, the comics, and beyond.
And beyond. Today we will be digging into Ewoks issue number 12, Beware the Thorn Monster. This issue hit the spinner rack on December 2nd, 1986, when we were wee boys.
That we were.
Yeah.
Let's see. It was illustrated by Warren Kremer, written by David Manick, so familiar names back in the saddle here. This issue was collected in softcover by Dark Horse in the Star Wars Omnibus Droids and Ewoks. A lot of weird coloring in this one. Logray is just like a Smurf. Very, very strange. And at one point, he's rocking a Speedo. He's
totally
just
is.
blue body Speedo and a couple of bones dangling from his dreads. I'm not sure what I'm looking at. But it's a lot.
Really hoping that's
it's a lot.
Dreads. I don't know what it is. Yeah,
it's a lot.
It was a lot to take in.
It was. Our featured cast member this time around is George Rousas. He serves as the colorist on this and many issues of both the Ewok and Droids comics, but in his early days, he was hired by DC Comics to assist Bill Finger and Bob Kane with their little title, Batman. He started with
Batman. Some guy that just Batman. Minor.
One of those 1940s characters that couldn't really get a footing.
Never made it. Yeah.
Couldn't get a footing. That's a shame. Starting with Batman number 2, George would draw backgrounds as well as do his inking and coloring work on the title. He would go on to co-create the first Superwoman character with Jerry Siegel. So
that's
lots
cool.
of good company here for old George Rousas. And again, we don't blame George for the insane coloring in this issue, because clearly there was some mandate that's like, you got to use these pale colors and only these pale colors.
They gave him like
I don't know.
One of those like 64 crayon boxes, but there was like 11 crayons in it. They're like, here you go. This is what we give them. It's a
whatever
test.
You have left.
This is what we rolled for this week.
Yeah. Could never seem to make R2-D2 blue, but Logray today was blue.
Yeah. I had to go back and look. It is totally like a diaper.
It is.
It's a diaper.
That's he's old.
I know they're trying to go for a Speedo, but that's like straight up a diaper.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that he's wearing a Speedo because none of the Ewoks ever wear pants. But I guess
draws attention to it.
I guess when he wanted to bathe, they were like, put a diaper on him. Put a diaper on him, I guess. Small cast in this issue, which happens quite often.
Yeah.
Hit me. What do we got? All
right, man. Let's go into it. Let's go into the uber detailed plot of issue number 12, The Thorn Monster. Once again, the evil Morag, sworn enemy of the Ewoks, sets her sights on disrupting Bright Tree Village, this time while Logray is off relaxing. Meanwhile, Wicket learns a valuable lesson on not watering plants too much while tending Logray's exotic herb garden in his absence. They overhear the commotion in the village and find that many of the Ewoks have been frozen by Morag's magic. Chirpa's confidence is shattered when Morag reveals that Logray is trapped. Morag then summons a glowing thorn bush that will begin to sap the forest of moisture as it grows, surely destroying their beautiful home. Wicket and Nisa must get to Logray. They manage to escape the village, but with Morag's pet beast in hot pursuit. The two think fast and manage to trap the beast momentarily so they can escape. Logray entrusts Wicket with his staff, giving him instructions to thrust it into the ground at the base of the glowing thorn bush. On their way back, Wicket uses the staff to ward off Morag's pet. His confidence is shattered, however, when Morag's magic transforms the vines into a monster which is unaffected when Wicket follows Logray's instructions. Logray's staff apparently will not work on a walking plant monster. Morag commands her new Thorn Monster to destroy Wicket and Nisa, so the two run into the forest to escape. With each step of the monster, more of the forest is sapped of its life-giving moisture, leaving a wake of destruction. Wicket thinks of an idea and quickly leads Nisa to a nearby lake. Nisa is confused because the monster feeds off of moisture. Regardless, Wicket pushes Nisa into the lake and the two of them draw the monster in while Morag relishes their stupidity. The monster begins to swell, but instead of growing, bursts into pieces. Earlier, Wicket learned a valuable lesson, that some plants will die if given too much water at one time. Wicket's risky gamble pays off as Morag's hold on Logray is broken in her distressed state. She flees as rain starts that will surely restore the destruction to the forest that Morag's glowing thorn monster created. Wicket is just happy he doesn't have to water Logray's garden with a bucket now. Roll credits.
So, as you'll recall, the last time, and prior to this, the only time Morag showed up in the comics was issue number 8. And that was an episode that I wasn't in because I was over on 90s Music Got Me Like because Kendra and I switched places for April Fool's Day. So I went back and I read issue number 8 to see that other Morag.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of read them back to back. The only 2 times Morag appears in the comics, and both of those are long after Morag was, I thought, killed in the first season of Ewoks.
The Kreegon, the Eye of the Kreegon.
The Eye of the Kreegon. Yeah, that's right. So they bring her back twice for this, and this really is the final time we see Morag in any iteration.
Oh man, that's crazy too.
Yeah, this is so we've talked about this a couple of times where in these last couple of issues, it's like we're getting less and less of the gang. You know, like I don't even like when was the last time we saw Latara? Like I don't even remember.
Less and less of the gang, no B plot. It just is the glowing thorn plant, and then into Thorn Monster, and then that's it.
And it's a shame that we're not using the rest of the cast because this would have been a much better Tebow story. You know, like trying to use Logray's, you know, because Tebow was kind of established as like the apprentice, like medicine man. Yeah. And he doesn't get that. I just think, you know, that would have been good. Yeah, I thought this one was a little odd, the way that Morag just kind of strolls into the Ewok village and people are like, oh, you, Morag.
I know, Chirpa's like, once Logray hears what you're doing, you know, meanwhile he's just standing there and Morag's just freezing people.
Right.
And he's not doing anything. And he's just being like, just wait till the cops come, you know, and it's just like, what are you doing, dude? It was weird, I think.
The first season, you know, and we've discussed that at length, so go back and listen, but like, when Morag was in an episode, they treated her like she was the big bad of the Ewoks. She was the villain. Yes. But I don't think either Eye of the Kreegon or this, they treat her like a big bad. They treat her more like just a random Duloc or just some villain of the week.
An annoyance rather than the true villain.
Yeah.
Villain of the week. That's it. Yeah. It's like, so she freezes Logray in place using magic. That seems like she could just use that anytime she wants, which is the first thing I thought about. It's just like, okay, so she can just pull up a crystal, see where Logray is. He could be sitting on the toilet. She could just freeze his butt to the toilet, you know. And it's just like, I thought, well, that's interesting. Like, why hasn't she used that before? Instead, it would have been great if she just was like hiding
Yeah.
and then did that to Logray and was like, ha, and then goes to the village, doesn't go to Logray. What's interesting is it did say in the beginning, sworn enemy of the Ewoks, but she's really the sworn enemy of Logray.
Yeah. They're the ones who have beef,
They're the ones.
you
And so
know?
when she freezes Logray and goes to the Ewok village, instead of going to Logray and taking him out, I thought
Right.
that was a little weird. That I was
It
like,
was weird.
she'd really want to follow that up and make sure, like, to get the double tap in there, like he's
Yeah.
frozen, and then just take
Right.
care of him. Then she could go do what she wants.
Do you think theirs is a story of lovers to enemies? Do you think that's what went wrong between Logray and
Yeah,
Morag?
maybe just a bad date that just
Yeah. 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 It was
they
going so
totally are.
well, and then all of a sudden,
Dude, that's great. We should resurrect the comics.
we
I wish I
should.
could draw and we could
Yeah.
make. You know what? I will write a letter to Kathleen Kennedy
Yeah.
that will put together a team. We just need
Yeah.
somebody. We just need a colorer with more than 11 colors,
Yeah. We need a
and
few.
we'll write and produce complementary comics to
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
That just I don't know, man. Like I
A
think some of
one-off
these.
Valentine special where Logray and Morag finally just lean into these feelings they've been denying, you know?
We'll get the origin
Be great.
story.
Yeah. We could still use the Speedo in the hot springs. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like that
yeah.
works. I don't know. You know how over the course of
Morag's
the
bikinis. It's like tattered leather.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God.
Don't be giving away all of our ideas. Jeez.
Okay. Okay. All right.
You know, sometimes in these, you see the village and it's like bustling. You know, it's been a while, but it used to be you'd see the village and you got the sense that there's like, there's like 75 Ewoks who like live in this village. And other times, like this issue, it really just seems like there's about the 5 main characters. And then, you know, we got a couple of background extras, but I don't know. It never has that like bustling energy that you see in like
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi, you know, where it's like Ewok, 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 you know, like I don't know. I just kind of missed that. It feels very small.
Yeah, you would think that'd be easier to draw in too.
Yeah. I think if it wasn't Morag and this was just like they're fighting the Thorn Monster by itself, like don't have Morag be a part of it and it's just them versus Thorn Monster. I think I'd feel more favorably about this comic, but adding Morag feels like there should be stakes that aren't there, and I find it distracting.
Oh,
So
that's a good point. Like they could
you
have
know,
just made the, hey, tend to my, when Logray's like, just make sure
yeah,
you take care of my exotic plant garden, and then
yeah,
Wicket screws up
yeah,
somehow and does something
yeah,
and creates the Thorn Monster, and then
yeah,
he has to take care of what he created by accident using
yeah,
his, using the lesson that he learned. And
exactly.
so
Or
that
or
makes a lot of sense.
Tebow,
Yeah.
Tebow
Or
has
Tebow.
accidentally uses
That's
low grade
totally a
staff,
Tebow
and
lesson.
I'm gonna fix these with I'm gonna fix these plants with low grade staff, and then suddenly we have a Thorn Monster. But I think having Morag, at least for me, signaled, this is gonna be like an epic. And it really wasn't.
Yeah,
So
and it just wasn't. It did fall a little flat on the
yeah,
Morag end, where like the Thorn Monster gets defeated, and then she just like randomly like falls into the lake and then
yeah,
flies off, and I was just like,
yeah,
"What is happening?"
yeah,
Like, well, that was
yeah,
a weird move. Instead of like, look, I get that she would run off angry.
yeah,
That makes sense to me. But like falling 50 feet into the lake and
yeah,
then flying away just was like,
yeah. Well,
I don't
in
know.
in Eyes of the Kregon, I know because I just read it again today. A bunch of like the Kregon, the bones crumble and like fall on her, and that's how she ends in that episode.
Oh
So
yeah, that's
the
right.
comics, it's not a great star turn for Morag. She doesn't have that same air of menace.
She is kind of on the same level as like a Duloc,
Yeah,
and
she
that
is.
is a little disappointing. It's like writing Darth Vader as on par with like stormtroopers. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly. I don't understand why you have a franchise as popular as Star Wars and then you have this void when it's seemingly over forever and they can't just put a little bit of like thought into how they want to like just watch Return of the Jedi and then kind of extrapolate what an Ewok society would be like. I just don't understand why
yeah,
it seems so just willy-nilly just like toss some people on that Star Wars project.
I don't know. I feel like that era though, like this is the mid '80s, right? There's a lot
Mhm.
of like, I'm just think of like the popular movies back then, like the really popular movies, like like Escape from New York, where like the future was very post-apocalyptic, like
Yeah.
the future was a very bleak place, and so I feel like at that time, comics of hope and things like that were not very creative,
Yeah.
as far as, or like, that's not true. I should say a lot of the content was very dark. And
Yeah.
so you see that even in like when we were young, like the kids' movies, when we were like Dark
True.
Crystal,
Ugh.
Labyrinth, these are not exactly like,
Yeah.
it's not Inside Out, it's not like
Yeah.
a happy, it's not like Moana and stuff like there were some pretty dark stuff even for kids.
Yeah.
And so like
Return to Oz.
Return it home, jeez.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
yeah, oh, jeez. I think you're right. I think we have no Ewok content post this.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're comparing like, oh, the more modern Ewok stuff is just so much better. It's just content in general is so much better. It's like a cultural enlightenment, I think. I think
Yeah.
there was just a tough time in comics. If you weren't like Superman, Batman, if you weren't the Avengers, if you weren't the Justice League, there wasn't a whole lot of creativity beyond the core superhero comics.
I feel like maybe the main issue with all of the Ewok stuff is rather than like, I mean, there's so much Star Wars now, like there's
There's
so
so
much
much now.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's so much, that world is so, for better or worse, full. But at this point, there was nothing. So it's like, I think we judge this, like, or I know I tend to judge this as people trying to make Star Wars. But I think this is
Yeah.
people trying to make the Smurfs or the Snorks or like any of those like 80s cartoons. I don't think they're
Yeah.
really going for Star Wars. I think they're
They're
going
not
for
even
like
incorporating it.
Right.
It seems very detached to what they should have been going for, which was an extension of the show, certainly. But like the show built so much on like the character of each
Yeah,
Ewok. And then you read the comics and it's completely different. We're breaking up the squad, right? It's not the 4 anymore, which I think is you're right. It's a huge disservice that all 4 Ewoks aren't in every single comic, and they have to be. I don't know why. That must be just the quickness of the drawing, or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
The
know.
inability to build a story around 4 people rather than 2. I mean, that's fine. They did 30-minute episodes and then they had to drop it down to 12. They still managed to do it with a full cast. And so
Yeah.
it's not even an echo or a shadow. It's like the third echo when you're screaming in a canyon, where it's just not. It's just not Star Wars. It doesn't look like Star Wars. Doesn't sound like Star Wars. Doesn't feel like Star Wars. You're right. It feels like Smurfs. It
Except
feels like
Smurfs is better.
Air Bears.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, except Smurfs is better. Yeah.
and-
Well, it works for Smurfs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It works for that, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You can't pull it off as a Star Wars.
Yeah.
And that's like that. Like, oh, it's Star Wars. This is the hubris. 3 years after the success of the Return of the Jedi, and going, well, it's Star Wars, so it'll sell. And it's like, no, you still need to put thought into it.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like where the Smurf succeeds, and again, those are based on comic strips, and there was a lot of history for the Smurfs anyway. But like the show really built like this is sort of like the world, like they did some world building. They kind of did this is how society works. These are the relationships, and then within that, they rotated the cast, and they had adventures and they had goofy episodes and stuff. Same is true of the Snorks or any of those of the shows from that era, kind of had that whole ensemble vibe, and this just never did. And I think reading the comics, as the cast narrows and narrows and narrows, it gets smaller and smaller. Now, I do feel like without all the context, like if we haven't been watching every episode and reading every issue, and I just like pick this up at a thrift store or something and just read through it, no context, having seen Return of the Jedi, I probably would be like, oh, what a fun little adventure that was. Look at those Ewoks.
Yeah, that's true. It is a very standalone, and we don't know Morag, right? There isn't that.
Right.
There is no disappointment. It's whoa, Morag's a sworn enemy of the Ewoks, and you just and you assume it, right?
And there's that concept in comics where like every comic could be somebody's first. So even in ongoing things, you're meant to have it be people can hop in at any place. Like that's not really true, but that's I think the original intention. But
I think it's more true with the Ewoks than I've read with any other
true
spinner comic. Literally, I don't think any of them have truly connected to each other in any way. They are all like individual episodes.
Yeah. Yeah,
completely different.
that's true.
Like the filler episodes basically
Yeah,
fill into like an overarching theme to a season.
yeah. That's not the worst thing, and they are
Not
geared
the worst
toward
thing. Yeah.
a young age, and again, just picking up one as a stand-up adventure. Maybe it holds up. Maybe it's good. Now I feel like we've talked this to death before we got to our Oak of Arc moments. I'm just going to tell you. I mean, we've already covered mine, and it is just the weird use of Morag to throw her in
Yep.
there and just have her not even be the main villain. It's like her henchman is the main villain, and then she just like
Yeah.
trips over her own shoelaces, and that's the end of Morag. That really, I was sad about that. And then especially knowing it's the last time you ever see her, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your Ichiwawa?
That's mine too,
Okay,
man.
all right, all right.
When I opened it up and I was like, "Ooh, Morag," and I was like, "Here we go," and then I was just like, "What the like? Wait,
Yeah,
just like I was really expecting like a showdown. Like, oh, sweet, the
yeah,
villain is Morag. There was never any risk of death or extreme danger. It just was
yeah.
kind of we rolled along, and then the end came, and
And there it
felt like
is.
that was
Yeah,
too quick. Yeah, yeah. But
yeah.
yeah, Morag, just they killed Morag literally killed her.
I mean, they keep
Character,
killing her, so
character. Yeah, they keep
theoretically, and obviously, she's going to come back in our fan fiction, where she and Logray finally seal the deal. All right, we've talked bad. So, what's your Ichiwawa
Okay.
moment?
Mine was when they were running away from the village. They escaped, and
Okay.
Morag sent her like little pig monster beast
Yeah.
after them. Wicket and Nisa climb up a tree, and they're kind of like, "What do we do?" And then
Yep.
they're like, "Oh wait, let's do this." They grab the vines, and they're like, they kind of plan out like, "I'll go, then you go," and then they swing down and tie the beast to the tree. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Here we go." They finally wrote the ingenuity
Yep.
into
I thought that
the, co-
too.
the comics. I mean, they've had it before with like the gliders in one of the comics,
I
but like
miss those
since
gliders.
since then, that's been the only like true ingenuity of like teamwork and the mistaken like accidental like oop we
Yep.
defeated the enemy. It gets really old quick, and when they have a moment and they shine like that where they're like, we have a great idea, we're only going to be able to pull this off if we both do it,
Yeah.
and they do it and it works, and that when I was just like, yes, thank you. It's such a small thing
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of the whole that short issue, but to me I was like, that's the Ewoks. We're back at they're short, they're small, and what they have to work with is their ingenuity to
Yep.
take something down. And it
Clever
was like
little
that's
beasts.
quintessential Ewok. I mean, they defeated the
Classic.
Empire with that. So
Yep. Yep.
so yeah. What about you? What was your Ichiwawa
Well, I
moment?
considered that one. I did for all the reasons you said.
Ah,
That was right on my
okay.
list. And I do like that you called Morag's sidekick a little pig monster. So that is sticking with me. But I think I think there's the whole like they're supposed to tend Logray's garden while he soaks, and there's a whole like, oh, don't water too much, don't water too much. And
Yeah.
it's kind of a double thing. I like that Logray's staff didn't work on the Thorn Monster because he was just a natural phenomenon. I liked that. I
Yes.
thought that was cool. But I really thought Wicket's plan, and it comes back to ingenuity, of luring him into a body of water so that he could like absorb it too quickly. I mean, I thought that was pretty smart, and they
Yeah.
planted the seed for that literally early on
Yes.
in
That was
in
so
the
obvious, wasn't it?
in
I
the
mean, that was
well,
like to me was
yeah,
obvious.
I mean, I knew that was something about that was going to come back, but then, yeah, I don't know. I liked the setup and delivery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good. Hard to rate because of all the reasons that we said. Although I feel like we took out our
Yeah.
frustrations on all of the Ewoks franchise on this one poor little issue.
Sorry.
So I'm gonna try to strip that back and look at how many yub nubs you think this one is worth.
I did enjoy it. Yeah, I think I'd give it like a 3. I don't know if that's being
Yeah,
too generous, but I did enjoy it. I never was just like, "I hate this." This was
yeah,
just like, "Oh, okay," like, I wouldn't have done that, I would have done this, and but, it just ended so quickly. That's what surprised me the most, that it felt like it just ended so abruptly, and
yeah,
that's what I think really hurts it the most, that it just could have been a little bit more compelling,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I
with
get.
a
Well,
human
again,
face.
though, I think that comes back to the fact that Morag was there. I think having
Yeah,
her there makes you think it's going to be a big issue, and it's a
stakes are
very
higher.
straightforward issue.
Yeah.
So, but I think I was going to say 3.5 yub nubs
Okay.
because thinking about if a kid just picked it up and read it, I think that they would enjoy it, and I think that was the intention.
Yeah.
So, I'll give it that.
Okay. Yeah.
We don't have many issues of the Ewoks left, so we really are. We got to savor
Yeah.
every morsel of
Every
Ewok.
miscolored frame.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. He dumped honey on someone at one point. Wicket
Oh,
dumped
I
a
forgot
big
about that.
barrel of
Yeah.
honey. It
That's not
didn't
the
really
first
have any
time that's happened
effect.
to.
There wasn't even any stickiness involved, but
Yeah, there's barrels of honey everywhere in that village, though. That's happened
yeah.
before, I think, where they've used
Yeah.
honey.
Yeah.
So that I mean, yeah, well, that's another plot positive, right? That's like
Yeah.
a reoccurring
There's a little
aspect
honey
of the village.
on that pig monster.
Sure got a lot of honey on that the pig dog pet.
Pig
Pig
dog.
dog pet. I don't know what that thing is. It
I
looks
don't
like a
either.
meatball, but
I
it's
don't
like a
either.
pig meatball.
Yeah. Yeah. A meatball with the gross little spider arms. All
It
right.
is.
Well, it was nice to be back on Endor this time because we had a
Oh yeah.
series of special episodes, but it was nice to be talking Ewoks again. Next time, though, it is the annual Halloween episode, and, Her Majesty, the
Yeah.
Queen of Halloween, is in the wings, ready to jump on the mic. So, Sally Jacoby Murphy is going to be joining us to discuss the Star Wars Kids Lego Halloween shorts, which you can find on the Star Wars Kids YouTube channel. And we'll put them out on our social medias. Steve discovered these last year, right after we recorded Ewok Hunt. So we put a pin in it, and now we're going to do it for the 2024 Halloween episode. I can't wait. I'm excited.
Ah, me too, man. I can't believe it's already been a full year since that Ewok hunt. That
Yeah,
thing was
time
so
has no
good.
meaning.
I
It
mean,
was.
that was great. Yeah, time has
It
no
was.
meaning.
It was great, though.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
a good
excited
one.
for this. This looks good. They're fun, so I'm excited.
Me too. All right. Well, see you then for a
I'll see you then.
spooky time. Okay.
This Endorian Life was brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Other shows on the network include 9021 Here We Go, 90s Music Got Me Like, and previously on X-Men. Share your thoughts on this and upcoming episodes by following us on Facebook or X at Endorian Life. And please rate, subscribe, and share the show wherever you get your podcasts.
Boom.
See you tomorrow.